Welcome, Annie Collins here for White Rose Crafts. Today we're going to create this floral thank you card. Let's go with the products I use. From Scrapberry, we're going to use their stain inks, and I have them here in basically rainbow color. So pink, orange, yellow, green, and blue, and purple. I have some embellishments of butterflies. I have from Creative Creation peel off flowers, stickers, and then from Darice I have an embossing folder. This is the Argyle pattern, and it's going to be some nice texture to the background of our card. So I'm going to emboss our card panel. So I have my card base and my card panel are both 110 pounds, and this is the panel I'll be embossing. And then here I have some Canson watercolor paper. That's what we're going to use our stain inks with. So I'm going to go ahead and move everything out of the way. I have some water and a fine detail paintbrush so that we can get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our remove our stickers and place them onto our Canson watercolor paper. The stems and the tops of our flowers are separate, so you can choose whichever flowers you would like. And these are called Crafty Creations from UK. These are called peel-offs, and these are floral peel-offs. And I'm just going to create a little floral garden down here on the bottom of this panel. I'm just going to go ahead and move along across the panel, adding some of our florals. So I have 3 big florals and 3 small florals, and I'm going to put them in varying heights. This way it looks like a full garden is growing down here. Put in our last large floral here, so we have 2 of our large florals and 1 small. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more, and there's going to be a few overlapping areas, and I'll show you how I'll fix that in a moment. So let me go ahead and add our last 2 florals, and I'm going to shift this down just a little bit before I add my next floral. I'm going to adjust this here. Then I'll just snip off the excess from the stem, and I'll use that on the other side. That way we have our florals in varying heights. Alright, so there they all stuck on down, and we can then address the little overlap. So I just trim it as close to the other floral petal as possible. That way it looks like they're behind each other. And I go across the card bottom there to make sure anything that's overlapping I adjust. So we're going to start by painting our leaves, and we're going to stamp out some of the ink onto my little palette here. And it's just a laminated piece of graph paper, and I'm using some water. I smush it down, I use a little water to water it down, and then I use my paintbrush to paint in. So now we're going to move on to some pink, and we're going to do the heart and the petals of our first flower. And I'm just going to fill them all in, go across, and then to back the center there of the little heart, I'm going to add a little orange, and that'll fill in that flower completely. For our little flower on the bottom down here, I'm going to use the orange on our petals, and then I'll use a little yellow for our center. Just add a little drop. And then for the next large floral, I move on and use the yellow petals, and then I'll use a little bit of the orange in the center. And I realized I have a little piece stuck in my center there, so I just removed it. And just add a touch of pink, just let it barely blend together. We're going to move on to our next large flower, and that's going to be a blue one. And we're just coloring those in. And anywhere I have too much ink that I feel is bubbling up too much, I just use a paper towel to dab it up. For our center on this one, we're going to add a little bit of yellow and a touch of blue, so it kind of turns from yellow to blue swirl in the center. For our bottom floral here, we'll move on to our purple with a little orange center. Then the next flower, I put a little orange and pink on top of it, so it creates this nice like corally color for that floral. Alright, so now that our flowers are all done, I have a little piece stuck there and I couldn't get it out, so I'm just going to leave it there. Alright, our flowers are all finished. All we have to do is add a little grass. So I'm going to wipe my palette a little bit, give myself a little space, smush a little green. I'm going to flip it upside down, and I'm just going to flick on starting from on my table, sorry, and I just flick down to create our grass. And I go across the entire bottom panel. Alright, so I'm going to wipe off any excess on my table, and I'm going to bring in some Shimmer spray. This is from Imagine Crafts in gold. And I'm going to bring this in because our butterflies, as I showed you there, have gold highlights to it. So I'm going to add a little gold splatters all across our flowers on the bottom here. So now I can move everything out of our way. And now I'm going to fussy cut the flowers all across the top. And I'm going to leave our grass solid straight on the bottom. So now I have my 110-pound card panel. I'm going to lightly mist it, put it into my embossing folder, and then I'll run it through my embossing machine with the appropriate sandwich. Now we have this beautiful Argyle embossed panel. Gary's great dimension. And I'm going to adhere it to first I'm going to trim it down. Before I adhere it, I'm going to trim it down because I want to make sure I have a nice white border all the way around, and I trim it down to 4 by 5.25. Then I'm going to adhere it to my card base, so I have a nice little border all the way around, and also my flowers are the same size for the bottom. I'm going to use some Woodware mounting tabs here, and I'm going to adhere our flower garden down here to the bottom of our card. We have some great dimension now with that. And now for my stash, I have this thank you. I tend to stamp a lot of sentiments. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. So when I have an extra one that I can use for a card, I use that first. So our butterflies, I'm going to pull a pink and a blue one out. And I'm going to get an idea about where I want them. But before I add them, I'm going to bring in our Shimmer spray again. And I want to add little gold droplets to the top, and as well as to our sentiments, so it all looks cohesive. I'm dipping straight into the bottle with my paintbrush, and then I just flick it on. I quickly move that out of the way because I don't want any spillage. I'm using some Barely Art glue to adhere my little butterflies to my card, and now our card is complete. So I'm going to go over again what we used. We used some Scrapberry stain inks, our Argyle Darice embossing folder, our Craft Creations peel off flowers, our butterflies, and some pure Shimmer spray in gold. I hope you found some inspiration. Don't forget, everything will be linked in the description box below, and please like and subscribe.